Welcome to Greenshoe Radio, brought to you by Greenshoe Media Group. I'm your host, Mark Bunting. Our guest today is Brad Humphrey, President and CEO of QMX Gold Corp, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol QMX. Now, Brad, we talked last in late August, and we have a lot of news flow to talk about, and your 21 plans as well. We'll get to that in a moment. But just for those who may not know, give us a little reminder and an update on QMX Gold and the 100-year-old property that you're sitting on there and all the historical data that you have. So give us an update on the story.
Sure. Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate you having us back on for the update. So QMX Gold, it's an exploration focused company. We're focused on our nearly 200 square kilometer property in the heart of the Val-d'Or mining camp along the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. We have dozens of highly prospective targets across our entire land package, but our most advanced is the Bonafont deposit, where we've been rapidly adding ounces and recently released an updated 43-101 resource estimate where we took our indicated ounces up 53% and our inferred up 100%. Being located in Val-d'Or, we've got excellent infrastructure, including our own permitted tailings and milling facility. And we also have a lot of corporate support. So most of our neighbors are also supportive shareholders, and that includes Eldorado Gold, O3 Mining, Probe Metals, Osisko Gold Royalties, and Eric Sprott also participated in our last financing earlier in 2020, last year.
All right. So you mentioned some of the news flow there, not the least of which is the substantial increase in your resource estimate, a fair amount of drilling results, and some of the terminology that the company is using in your news releases has to be encouraging for investors, such as highly prolific, impressive, high grade. So give us an idea of what you've been discovering.
Yeah. So, since our last chat in August, we've continued to drill aggressively on our targets. We had for 2020, we eventually ended up drilling 45,000 meters, which is a giant program for a company of our size. Most of that exploration work, or most of that drilling, was done on the Bonafont deposit, and that was to prove up these ounces. The important thing about that resource estimate that we put out was not only did we expand our indicated and our inferred ounces, but we also proved that under very conservative parameters, we could build an underground resource, a mineable underground resource. So that's going to be our focus going forward, which I can get into a little later with some of the deep drilling. But we've been hitting extremely high grades within the intrusive at Bonafont, outside the intrusive, and on other parts of our property. It is a highly prolific land package. If you look at the map, we are located right in the middle of all the action. And there's all kinds of historic gold mines and gold showings all across the property. And one of the great things is every target we've started to drill, we've received pretty substantial results. It's important also to note, just for some perspective, we started drilling Bonafont in 2017, but not really with a focused exploration program until 2018. So we've added those ounces very quickly. And that's a testament to the quality of our land package. So 2020 was an extremely active year for QMX.
All right, Brad. So we're well into 2021. Tell us about your plans, and also let us know about your funding requirements, how you're funded. Last time we talked, you had raised about $6 million. You were fully funded through 2020. So 21 plans, and then how you plan to get there financially.
Yeah, so for the winter program, which is really January to March in the Val-d'Or area, we plan to drill 35,000 meters, starting with 4 rigs turning now, and that will expand to 7 rigs as the program progresses. The primary focus is on the eastern side of our property still. So it's going to be on the Bonafont deposit, around the Bonafont deposit, on a project that we drilled in the past called New Louvre, which is just to the south of Bonafont, and then around a past producing mine called Bevcon that closed in the 60s and really hasn't seen much exploration work since then. We did some drilling in 2 winter programs ago and hit some spectacular results there, which we'll want to be following up. at 137 grams over 3.7 meters, definitely something that needs to be followed up. And on funding, so we are in good shape right now. We've got about $7 million. In Val-d'Or, it costs about $110 all in for drilling. And if I take that one step further and add in everything possible that is required for exploration, it works out to about $135, $140 a meter. So we're in good shape. However, we will be opportunistic, as always, with exploration companies. We don't have any revenue streams. So we'll watch the market and see how things look. But right now, we're certainly not under any kind of under the gun to raise any money.
Now, every CEO has needed to come up with a battle plan to deal with COVID-19. Give us an idea of what you have been dealing with, the impact on your company and your exploration and drilling, and what kind of measures you've put in place.
Yeah, a great question. I mean, that's one of the main questions that comes up in every meeting now, particularly with the restrictions changing over time. So QMX, as always, we prioritize the safety and health of our employees and consultants. So we put in very strict protocols earlier this year. We're fortunate that we have a relatively large office in Val-d'Or. It used to be Ore Resources, an old company up in Val-d'Or. It used to be their office, and we have a relatively small team. So the social distancing part is quite easy. All the offices are very spread apart. In the core shed, we have put up some screening between the tables. Same with the saw cutting area. So we've been very fortunate that we were able to put in the social distancing and masking and make some adjustments so that we could continue to operate relatively normally. The most recent restrictions that have been put in place in Quebec don't really impact us either, because this time around we're allowed to continue to work in the field and in the core shed. Our project geologists are all working remotely and only going into the field when required. So we've been relatively not impacted so far with the recent restrictions. And we continue to focus on the health and safety requirements and rules, and a lot of virtual calls are going on.
Now, as far as the stock, in August, it went above 30 cents to a peak of about 34 cents, I believe, a share. Again, QMX on the TSX Venture exchange. And that coincided with, number one, news flow from your company in terms of drilling, and also the fact that gold at the time went over $2,000. And then, of course, as we know, that's been consolidating for the past several months. So what is your impression of the market's reaction and treatment of your stock as it relates to the news you're putting out, but also in terms of what the market's actually doing?
Yeah, I mean, good question. So we had a very positive reaction to some of the drilling we did this summer. And we were lucky that those results were coming out into an environment where the gold price was strong, and that was driving strong equity markets. There was a lot of funds flow into the space, and we were putting out great results. Unfortunately, the market turned and got a little bit softer, as well as the gold price, shortly after we put out those results. And we spent a number of years sub 10 cents. So I think that as the markets turned over, a lot of people decided to maybe take some profits or take some money off the table there. And then with the increase in activity, so everybody was able to raise money this summer, more drilling was going on, and there was a lot more activity. That has created a bit of a bottleneck at some of the assay labs. We added a second assay lab, and that's helped a bit, but there is still a major backlog with getting assay results. So we had a bit of a news vacuum, and also our resource was delayed because of the assay. Every step of the way when you do a resource, you're re-assaying and retesting the material just as part of the requirements. So that created a bunch of delays, and we were impacted there. And also tax loss selling, obviously, when the stock does spike in the middle of the summer, you end up, or in the middle of the year, you end up having a lot of tax loss selling. But I think since the tax loss selling as the pressure has come off, and given some of the results we've put out so far this year in 2021, our stock is performing very well again. And we have been outperforming since the beginning of the year. And I suspect that that'll continue. We've got a number of great results coming. This giant program happening on some very exciting targets over the winter. So I expect that we'll start performing more in line with where we should be going forward.
Now, Brad, you've said before that you think QMX is just scratching the surface of the potential of your property in Quebec. You've also said that investors can get off the bus if they want, as you said, to maybe take some profit, but they probably shouldn't. So give us and reiterate the investment case for QMX.
Yeah. So when we, so just, you have to remember it's a 200 square kilometer property. It has multiple historic mines across the property and historic gold showings. This has been, as you mentioned, it's a 100-year-old land package. And there's been a lot of work done. We have a new geologic model now that, we've been working with and has been very successful that we're applying to this model. The eastern side of Val-d'Or, typically you weren't drilling at depth and you were drilling in certain ways that now we know was maybe not the most optimal way to be. And we're proving that there's considerable, prospectivity at depth. And with the results, we've been getting great results down to 1,000 meters. So there's all of that upside that's never been tested. And when I talk about this 35,000 meter program we're doing in the winter months, that's on a 5-kilometer trend that we're focusing on. So the eastern side of our property is about 42 square kilometers. Our entire property is 200 square kilometers. And we're focusing on this little sliver in there and getting all of these great results. So that's sort of, you step back and you look at all the other potential on the property and you get the sense that we are just scratching the surface. We have a very strong team in Val-d'Or. We have a very good understanding of the geology and the structural controls. And everywhere we apply that knowledge, we're getting good results. And I think that we have a long ways to go still.
All right, great stuff, Brad. Thanks a lot for your time. Have an excellent 21, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, you've been listening to Greenshoe Radio, brought to you by Greenshoe Media Group. Our guest has been Brad Humphrey, President and CEO of QMX Gold Corp, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol QMX. Thanks a lot for listening. I'm Mark Bunting, and we'll talk to you next time.